understanding that our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our frequency, and putting that aside and understanding first that we are humans first, having this spiritual experience. And we have to get through our human shell of emotions that shapes and molds the spiritual experience that we have.
And welcome back to the Consciousness of the Way. I want to welcome to the podcast. I've been looking forward to this conversation for quite some time since she accepted my invitation. I want to welcome to the podcast a visionary facilitator, a spiritual teacher, a channeler, an author, among many things, a wisdom teacher. Welcome to the podcast, Jen.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I love being here. I really what you share and teach and facilitate yourself. Yeah.
All exciting. It's like one big, mishmash of symbiosis that all ends in the same place when you hold that resonance, which I love.
Yeah, exactly.
So why don't we start with, highlights? You're here right now, and you've spent many years teaching people. And for example, just before we got on line here, Sasquatch. Pronounce it again. I'm having a tongue twister. Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
Yeah, Sasquatch. It's like Yeti, like the Yeti, right?
Yeti, Bigfoot.
Sasquatch. Yeah.
Sasquatch is a Salish word, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and that's where the Salish Indian tribe is. And Sasquatch is it's a Salish word, but it's the same thing. Bigfoot, Yeti. I can't remember what it's called in Florida, but it's the same thing, and it's a consciousness. I saw Sasquatch when I was 4 years old up in the Pacific Northwest. I was on a hiking trip with my parents. It was our first overnight backpacking trip, and I saw these monkeys in the trees. I mean, I was a little girl, and that's to me what they looked like. And they were two juvenile Sasquatch. And my family, we were all hiking along a plank out to the ocean, and we were going to camp out there. And these monkeys were kind of like jumping with us as we were moving. I was in front of the group and then receded to the back because I needed, I kept tying my boots all the time. They kept coming undone and my socks were falling down. And so I was behind the group and looked up, and there were the two juvenile with their mother. And so I saw the mother and the two kids, and telepathically she told me to catch up, because I was like, ready to start playing. I had no fear, and I felt this warm love. And to me, they seemed like kids my age, and wanted to play. But, she told me to catch up with my family to go. And then later on in my life, when I gave birth to my son Samuel, it was a pretty long birth. It went on and had many twists and turns. And then I had a Sasquatch reading, because I've always, that's always followed me. And in my family, to believe in the things that I believe in, I was able to see things and feel things and hear things and new things. And I was very different than how my family looked at reality and talked about the world. So I knew that there was something different if I could see them, and my father wasn't really able to. I wanted to uncover that. So I had a Sasquatch reading, and it was interesting because the two juvenile, they are now my guides, because the shaman that did the reading for me described the birth of Sam, and nobody would know that. Nobody would know about the twists and turns that happened. And so it opened up my whole world into the Sasquatch consciousness, that they are interdimensional beings. And we all have a Sasquatch guide, that they oversee our collective consciousness in relation to Gaia, that they are part of the seeding of our consciousness in this third dimensional experience that we're having here on Earth. So,
well, I find that fascinating because
yeah,
I was doing my wife's past lives leading up to this one. Within Taoism, we normally do 9, and she was the Sasquatch.
really?
Yeah. Not that she's probably like, "How dare you share that with the world?" Yeah, well, and it's pretty potent, that connection that she has with that energy, and it starts to emanate through her physical body. Just that, it's just like having another strand of a DNA code that is evoked and then unraveled,
Exactly.
and before your very eyes. That when you are aware, what we find within that nine level remembrance leading back to this present moment is all these facilitating jigsaw puzzles that just meet as one as you ascend or accelerate to decelerate back to this moment, and people get totally blown away. When I do a reading, lay people down, or they'll be sitting eyes closed, and they experience a movie, generally in their third eye, depends on their development, and it is in concert with the actual reading. So they feel the visceral, kinesthetic, somatic experience that goes with the reading itself. And, you instantly connect with it. What wild stuff that it would not make any sense to your conscious mind, because your conscious mind has yet to evoke the true understanding. It's more within the finite, bankrupt intellect. And the second you get a taste of that center point, that vesica, that unified state, that pulsing magnetism that is the animation to everything, now we get down with the get down. Now it's exciting. So your relationship with Sasquatch, and just that throughout your lifetime, it has such a robust and very potent, primal, but also earthbound connectivity that keeps you grounded but expansive at the same time, and it emulates through your aura, which is quite evident.
Yeah, thank you. It's lovely. So the twins are guides. Also, the mother Rosie is a guide of mine, and Camus, channeling. He's a Sasquatch elder. That he's more of an elevated dimensional consciousness than, say, Rosie or the twins. But that's who I use when I facilitate healings. I do healing sessions, consultations with folks, and we use the Sasquatch energy to introduce them to their Sasquatch guide. Every one of us has a Sasquatch guide. But I love it that your wife was once in guide form.
I thought that was so random, because whenever I do readings, you never know the outcome. But like, holy shit, that is whack. That is crazy. And it's like, you watch her as she reclaimed that energy. You watch the liberation of her aura just like expand and then
I know.
And this quivering attunement was very present through her center channel. And it was really quite something as you merge back to that remembering moment, that deciphering moment.
Gosh, beautiful.
It is very, very potent. So now, when you're teaching people this stuff, how do you normally go about it in a sort of an integrated level that someone can comprehend and have everything progress at the same moment? Because I feel like personally, I've been in this space consciously about 36 years doing this stuff. And as an ordained priest, just over 30, it becomes problematic for most seekers because it's like everyone has this YOLO mentality presently, which is you only live once. So give it to me now. There's no need for mastery. I know I am. So just hand it to me. And I'm like, that is absolutely true. And you see a lot of people tend to wake up with what we call a bite of the spiritual dragon, where you get a taste and you have an epiphany. I hear grandma, I see visions, I have vivid dreams, I have lucid dreams, I can predict things, I can see auras, I'm a psychic medium channel. And they wake up with this realignment. So they will misalign with the mundane personality, then they get realigned and they go, I want more. And the second they reach out, it's like an apparition. It's like an oasis. It disappears. So how do we recenter them? And I find that most people are like, look, 30 years ago, I'd have someone with a psychotic episode come to me for what we call an exercising, or more commonly, an exorcism. And this is part of removing unnecessary frequencies. We're all creators. We are creating from what you would perceive as the past and the future, but quite frankly, it's the now moment. So they bring these energies upon themselves, and that is their own story. However it is, if you want to say tomato or tomato, it's for you to decide your absolute truth through your own remembrance. But from that, you will determine within yin and yang, which yin is the absorption of all colors, yang is the emission of all colors, that these things now show traits of the egoic personality identification, which is part of the misdirection of the human condition, which starts to dissolve itself when they find teachers like you. So these types of things, remembrance, can be problematic for someone that just wants the YOLO, give it to me right now experience.
Right.
Have you ever experienced that yourself?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes. And so it's kind of like, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Let us start at the first level, understanding that our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, our frequency, and putting that aside. And understanding first that we are humans first, having this spiritual experience. And we have to get through our human shell of emotions that shapes and molds the spiritual experience that we have. So with some folks, we do soul contract work. And in that, you build a foundation with your spirit guides, and you understand where your spirit guides reside. You know, we need to understand these things almost like compartmentalizing. So understanding and building that foundation. Once you build that foundation and have that experience of kind of connecting something greater than yourself, not everybody sees and hears their spirit guides. Some people do. Some people may have a tingle in their shoulders when their guides are trying to get their attention, or feel something in their body somewhere, or they've come up with a mechanism that they understand that that is their guide. But really, it's building that relationship first and then going from there. And I think some people they think somehow they get the impression that if I start on this journey, then bam, it's just all going to open up and I am going to be a medium or a channel, or it's all going to make sense, this experience that I'm having. But with some, it takes practice. It's like building your spiritual muscle. And then from there, then you can see where your gifts lie, what is, easier for you to foster. And then I work with folks then how to build that gateway, how to build the gateway within spirit to be able to bring in what it is that they want. most folks are wanting that elevated connection, that elevated consciousness, to feel better, to feel like this whole experience makes sense. Is that making sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I referred back to the old school exorcism 30 years ago, and today a lot of those types of people would not even end up on my doorstep because they would wake up one day and say they're channeling the Palladians, open up a YouTube channel and get 100,000 followers. This is what takes place now because there's a sense of awareness that wasn't part of the equation within the human experience 30 years ago. The progression of that resonance is more evident now than I believe at any
Yeah,
point in human history, quite frankly.
exactly. I mean, like exactly what I was just explaining to you, my family's position on me seeing the monkeys in the trees, right? That's what I thought I was seeing at 4 years old. I didn't understand that this is what I was seeing, that I was seeing guides, that I was seeing Sasquatch in their physical form, but understanding that it's really a consciousness. But
Mm.
getting back to that belief, 30 years ago, you were crazy if you believed in aliens or that they are here to teach us, or the channeling, the mediumship, that it's becoming more mainstream. It's becoming part of our lives to talk about, for me to be on YouTube and say that, I use Sasquatch to facilitate healing in people's bodies. I mean, that's pretty far out, right?
You'll get a knock on the door momentarily
Yeah.
or to take you away. We need to evaluate your mental emotional state. That's okay. Psych evaluations are quite normal in this situation.
Yeah. That was the case with me.
Right,
Absolutely.
right.
I have quite a story about that with, mental illness and thinking I was crazy because I met my spirit guide, Pink, in physical form when I was 19 years old. I met my other one, Courtney, when I was 22 in physical form, and I saw her fly home. I mean, I saw the ship that came down. I was driving through the mountains in Bellingham going home, and I looked up and there was an upside down aircraft carrier, is what it looked like, and rose up and collected these 5 little capsules. And one of them was Courtney, who I had just spent about 9 months working with. And now she is here in my guide form. She's a Syrian. And yeah, it's just kind of like mainstream now that folks have guides and work with them and get messages. But that I really want folks to understand that they drive their spiritual ship, right? That
Mm.
you guys, you all have this power to establish a relationship with your guides, to learn about your energy, how your body, how your spirit, how your higher self, how your energy body works, and build a gateway to these things. But at least just bringing about peace and ease, inclusion and belongingness in your life, feeling that elevated. Everybody talks about raising your vibration now. It's like this buzzword. Like, well, how do you really do that? You
Hmm.
do that by your soul contracts. That's the shedding your soul contract energy. That is why we are here in the third dimension. It's all about our soul contracts. We're here to experience our thoughts, our feelings, our emotions, and they come through relationships. Everything that think about your reality, everything is through a relationship, from your primary caregivers to your life partner to the person who checks out your groceries at Costco. You are having a relationship with, and the energy exchange. And so understanding what are these things that are being reflected back to me, that which I need to learn. That's soul contractual energy.
Amen to that. But it's fascinating because it's like all right, witnessing this stuff and being a teacher myself for so many years. I personally, I'm a fanboy. I'm an ordained priest of 2 lineages of Taoism, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, my name is carved into a monastery in China. Exciting. But this is fundamentally a baseline of self-realization, because what met that or brought me to that cause and effect was through me meeting that moment that was a crescendo, a elevated sort of constant that happened within a few days that would be mind-blowing for most. So enlightenment or self-realization can be instantaneous, and I say that with great confidence because it happened to me. So you kind of put that point in and go, all right, well, holy moly. So why are you, if that's the case, and then this is the question from my students, Shifu, why do I need to learn this stuff? Because there's a stress adaptation that comes from what we perceive and realize as reality within a Taoist path, which is, we refer to the reality as a bellows, the symbiosis of yin and yang. So everything is contracting and expanding at the same time. You're all things and nothing at the same time. Your mission, if you choose to accept it, Ethan Hunt, is to find that center point.
Yes.
We refer to that center point. The center point is the merging of these electric potentials.
Yep.
So if you start to water it down to a scientific lens of that dielectric potential, which is the magnetism of what we call the primordial mother, the void.
Mm-hmm.
And so the void animates the consciousness. The consciousness animates the spirit. We call it the Shen. The Shen animates the energy animates the body. And there is a progression between spirit and consciousness that is a 4-level ascension that brings us to a 9-point within Taoism. That is the highest point of completion of the construction of what we call the diamond of perfection. So that hardness is reflected back into unobtainable ideals within a human mind that becomes realized through that permeable state that is not permeable, the paradox of the paradox.
Yes.
So you have a point of no return where you detach and attach as all things. And from that, your ability to be all things and nothing at the same time is just a breath away, that self-realization. Now, what is more potent than evidence? Evidence is, I'm a Pepsi challenge guy from the 80s. I'll take the Pepsi taste test with anybody on this stuff. Show me. It's a show me moment when you want to be self-realized, a spark of divinity, desirous of, creates inquiry. Inquiry merges into contemplation. Contemplation then blossoms curiosity. Curiosity then seeds what we call hopium. Hopium is a very potent state for a human. That hopium then meets a belief system that is from an experiential moment that makes it so it goes from a belief system to a knowing. And that knowing can be, this is the crossroads for any seeker, because your belief system to knowing can be met with a corrupted, distorted state. And that can only be validated by your experience. So if you get some miserable naysayer that cannot stand the existence of existence and says that everything sucks, and it does suck, I know because I'm living it. I'm living one big suck. This is a point where you have to facilitate, if it's for the purpose of their own path, an awakened moment where they go from misaligned to realigned, and there's an epiphany. This is where we use what we call the secret source of transformation within Taoist alchemy, where that transformation would come in the form of manifestation, magic, healing, instantaneously, to evoke within the skeptic, the seeker, the humanist, something greater, this resonance that is what we refer to as electric potential. So that electric potential has this vibration. The vibration is frequential. The frequency holds a resonance. If you can hold it, oh yes, it will be yours. Oh yes, it will.
Mm-hmm.
And so you mentioned the method. You mentioned this assimilation to this self-realization. How would you present this path to someone that is on your doorstep for this wisdom teaching?
I would talk about thoughts, feelings, emotions as frequencies. We aren't taught that we are energy, to look at everything around us, from these oracle cards to this glass to me, to everything I think about that I draw to me. That, just like you were talking about, it's almost like riding the cusp, right? It's staying in that center. So understanding that you have the ability to draw into you all of your own experience, that where you are at is what you attract, what you think about becomes, what you marinate in is what you draw to you. And there are certain exercises that are to be done in soul contract work, right? In evaluating that, what is it that you think about that you are drawing to you? And how is it that? How can you change that? Almost what is the antecedent to that? So that's how we begin when I'm working with someone, like in soul contract coaching, in the soul contract class. It's building the foundation with your guides, understanding spirit guides, where they reside. They reside in your subconscious. Your subconscious is its own consciousness. Your guides, it's like they're peering through a window into your life. They're seeing what it is that you want, what it is that you desire, what it is that maybe is hurting you, holding you back, those places that are kind of anchoring you to those painful contracts, or those painful thoughts, or those painful emotions. Because your spirit guides, they are constantly reshaping your environment to match your greatest and highest good. They're constantly bringing in the people, the energies, the experiences that support your greatest and highest good. And they, it's that Rolling Stones song, right? We don't always get what we want, but we get what we need. They see what it is that you are needing, what it is that you're desiring through that window, but reshaping your reality to match what is in your greatest and highest good. So it's kind of like this understanding of you in your human form, your ego, thoughts, feelings, emotions, but what they're tied to spiritually, and how that anchors you in one way or another. And interesting what you just spoke about, because I see it as riding the cusp, that middle wave, that you're not too much this way, we're not too much that way. Riding the middle gets us to that place of enlightenment. It gets us to that place of ascension, of rising, of expanding.
And that's where you find the bat signal, the yin and yang, which is the template for your reality. And when you enter that Wu Ji, we call it the primordial mother.
Cool.
It's between the breath in and the breath out resides the permanence. And once you hold that, all things are remembered, and you return to that state as you form and accumulate and create the diamond of perfection. It will be visceral, kinesthetic, somatic, as you saturate the cell at a subatomic level. that remembrance will show itself through the body, through the tuning fork. And then you enter into the bellows. And so creation and completion are two of the same, which are happening now, always. You can enter that center point at will. And what we refer to that center point as is Wu Wei, effortless action, effortless effort. This is a serendipitous, synchronistic syncretism that comes from holding that resonance. So if we water everything down to nothing more than the commodity, the currency of this material state, we refer to this within Taoism, the Great Awakening, where we bring immortality and crystallize it into the material state as truth, as an absolute truth, because the evidence will show itself that it will be superhuman, supernatural, supernormal, and unobtainable through the lens of the human condition. And as you awaken to that, you will see more and more evidence that will bring you to that stress adaptation from contracting and expanding, and you will hold that resonance. So that commodity, the most potent, valuable asset, is your attention.
Beautiful.
And your attention will create and form what is your experience.
Right.
So that is electric potential. That is created, that 0.07 millivolts within the cell body, the 50 trillion cells that is the flesh and blood that looks back at you in the mirror as yourself, does not require your participation.
Beautiful.
And people are like, what the hell are you talking about, Jifu? That is a paradox. That is a head screw. You're welcome. Now continue your path of self-realization. And it's like, well, Lao Tzu always comes in with it. It's like, well, Lao Tzu, what's going on with the world, death and destruction and financial ruin? And I just love this. I always repeat this because it's typical of him. He's whimsical and childlike.
Right.
Imagine you're like a grain of sand, asking the beach, what are we doing today? Fall back into the beach and be realized. And then I go, damn, you make me look good. Because I have no idea where that came from. I couldn't make that shit up if someone paid me. And you know, you get these insights from a higher frequency, this access point, the channeling, and you're like, okay, I know I'm in that center point because it has a visceral, just like that commune that we just had. As we were moving through this conversation, you're having a visceral kinesthetic somatic experience, which my parapsychologist friends would call psychokinesis. This is a union. The biofields are as one, as you are me, I am you. What is there to be afraid of? Nothing. If you believe you are not of this body, what can harm you? Nothing. It's right back to the good old-fashioned self-realization. How simplistic, and we always tell people, let the man who's never left the village, let him know he's seen the world. Because it's all here. You're reaching outside of yourself, dudes and dudettes. It's all inside you. But you know, that sounds so worn out at this point within the spiritual community. Oh, just go inside, it's not outside. And people grasp these concepts and then they talk on it, and they create this sort of environment where they're looked upon as a source of information. There's nothing wrong with that, but it gets a diminished return because many people will talk about this stuff, but due to the inexperience of any of these things, it's conceptual. And so what I love with these conversations, when I find the resonance that is equal to or greater than, and that's how you acquire an invitation from me. I'm just not randomly going, hey, look, I just want to donate my time to talk shit about nothing. No, you have to meet the resonance required. There is a requirement that is required for me to merge into this conversation. So I'm very humbled when you agree or accept my invitation. But furthermore, I'm also identifying the potency of what you transmit. And that's how the invitation is acquired or generated from my part within this whole interweb experience. Because I mean, I've had experiences where the vetting was not necessary. I had a person booking back in the day, a year or two ago, and they were booking people, and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And we're having, and they're looking at me like, oh shit, you see me. You know I'm full of shit, but let me just see if I can keep going long enough that it will work, that people will start believing in it. And I'm just like, listen, it's not about ousting you. It's about including you. You want this. The old expression, you want to fake it till you make it. I'm here to help facilitate that self-realization. So just because you're just pondering contemplation does not mean that you go, oh, I see you, you're full of shit. No, this is a moment for me to reach out and go, come with me if you want to live. Have you ever seen Terminator 2?
Yeah.
And it's like, this is a moment where you reset, because that resonance is undeniable, that precedes you, precedes me. It's a mastery of self-realization and cultivation. That's why people lean themselves towards a facilitator of wisdom teaching. And it happens across the globe. And many people, it will come from the absolute is the truth. It is not, if you're thinking, you're not knowing. If you're knowing, you're feeling. And that's where people gravitate. They go, oh, I don't need to know what Jen's saying, because I'm it's a permanence. I'm feeling this visceral oscillation that goes through me from head to toe, that I know she could tell me to walk off a bridge. I'm following her, because there is a knowing that comes with that potency, whether it comes from a scripture, whether it comes from a teacher, whether it comes from a place, person, or thing. You will know what your path is and the way that it constructs itself for your self-realization, and allow it. And that's where let it go, let it go. My dear, my daughter's favorite movie, Frozen, Elsa will show you that it is possible to, we call it selfishness, to the selflessness requires the sacrifice. And then people are like, oh, that makes me contract. I'm puckering up right now. Yes, because that word evokes something within you that you are holding on to that is unnecessary.
Yeah.
And that is that moment where it's time. It's time to surrender.
Yeah.
You need not to swim against the current.
Right.
Lay back and let it take you where it needs to go.
Lead from the universe, not the scar. Right.
Right. Amen to that. People are like, are you some evangelist? No, I love everything, man. I like, one of my favorite hobbies is to just find the destination, put my finger on it, and drive there and experience all temples of worship, whether it's a church, whether it's a mosque, whether it's a whatever. The only people that have never allowed me through their doors are Jehovah's Witness.
Oh.
I have to submit to certain requirements for that to be so, and I've yet to find that necessity. But every other faith, at some way or another, I just love it, man. Give me a church, I'd love to go in there and just get down with either the grit or the pain and suffering that they're just piling up in some church somewhere, and you just like, you sit into it, you experience the lamenting, the self-loathing, the pain and suffering that has been the very catalyst to that congregation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't realize it. Yet you could go to the other end of the spectrum and go into some Buddhist temple and experience the same thing, yet you're expecting some enlightened worshiping of some higher God, and it doesn't exist. And then you can go to another temple that it does. This is the exciting part of doing what we do.
Yeah. Well, we live in the third dimension. We have emotion, therefore we have judgment, and that's where we have religion. all these different factions and interpretations.
Easy, buddy. Back off. I'm a Ghostbuster. I'm a priest. I have two lineages that I am part of a teaching of. But yes, no, I would concur. I agree. There's a insidious sort of undertone that comes with organized religion.
Well,
I am not a perpetrator of that. Yet most people say that that's what's going on. Yet the truth is, the facilitator is the head of that congregation, that priest, that teacher. Are they truly absent of their own self and truly channeling divinity? And that will be the proof of the pudding, in my opinion.
Right. And, all of it is good, whatever speaks to your heart and speaks to your energy is good. But that's why we have it in the third dimension. In the higher dimensions, it's just one study of the God force or that universal love or the consciousness, the energy that flows through all souls. But here in a third dimensional experience, we can break it up and study it in different ways, but we're all holding the same rope. We're just at different places on it or at different ends. It's all good.
It's all gravy, baby.
All good.
All gravy. Well, I love the part you put in the thought, feeling, and emotion, because that's something that I teach people, and that's sort of like ground zero. It's basement level, and so you need to understand that everything, that's the secret sauce. That's the 11th herb and spice to KFC. Is everything is a thought, feeling, and emotion. Mm-hmm. And that is the very ingredients, the trinity that emulates through all aspects of your self-realization. You realize this trinity exists within all things, but furthermore, in more detail, as you unravel the human condition through the labyrinth of the finite mind, to the other end, realizing you're a human beingness has this potential of true connection of that sentience, realizing that you are this potency, the superpower of the humanist, empathy. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden you access the higher levels, Super Mario Brothers Part 2, you get an extra life, and all of a sudden now you realize that superpower reveals this servitude and selflessness that you cannot fight. You cannot, that old expression, you cannot fight fate, because you have developed and cultivated this ascended state. It does not require you anymore. Mm-hmm. So you can enjoy the fruits of your pain and suffering as a human being and still maintain that resonance, which is the paradox within Taoist alchemy, because people, once you detach and attach as the primordial mother, you're every thought, every feeling, every emotion. You're the physical, energetic, and spiritual manifestation of divine word, will, light, love of the Tao, baby. And that becomes present in everything. So people find it crazy when I do witness healings, or they watch me as a facilitator or an observer of healings or magic or things that are now moments. And they're like, you're acting like a petulant child that just threw a couple of F-bombs. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. How is it possible you could say fuck yeah and then witness miracles that transcend a state of resonance that goes beyond and that's the part where people are delusional, because virtue signaling does not give you admission to a higher state of awareness. Playing with the substance of energy is, again, an infantile state. It's like a baby playing with shit. That is the second level of awareness. It does not make you ascended. You can master states of electric potential, and I teach people these things: telekinesis, psychokinesis, clairvoyance, mediumship, channeling. Sure, these are all fantastic. Yet if you are absorbed with that as an obsessive bauble, and you stay there, your consciousness will cease to expand. It will stay there as a stagnated point of contention because you go, I'm this, I'm that, I'm something else, and it will not continue to blossom into who you really are. And that's something that I've noticed. So, if I teach someone something like levitation and they become obsessed with it, and next minute, you watch them down on the strip and they're getting paid big bucks for people to watch them levitate. I'm like, hang on, yo, you might have missed the point here. But Jipu, this is one of the superpowers we call the transformational assets, right? They're part of the assets, are part of the chambers within each dantian. And so you can acquire them through the alchemical process. This is fantastic. I only ever met 3 people that have managed to master that. 2 of them were Kundalini masters in Indonesia, the jungles in Indonesia. And then the third one was one of my students. And a lot of people go, well, Jifu, you're the teacher. Why don't you levitate? Because I couldn't give a shit about levitating. I want to see physical, mental, emotional, spiritual healings. Now I do crazy shit like get a skewer, run it through my arm, pull it out, and there's no entry or exit point, and you go, holy shit, what was that? Right. Or, facilitate an observation of a physical healing that is now. So you will watch flesh transmute before your very eyes. Psychonauts might be more familiar with this than someone that is more green into the entry level. I like people to start with things like bending spoons because you feel into the tactile resistance, and then you start to transmute that as you melt the spoon like a candle. Move the prongs on the fork is a graduation of spoon bending or metal bending. But the actual application is the same. When you witness it with your eyes open, it wiggles. So you have the element of yin and yang, and you'll visually see it wiggle and transmute and wiggle and transmute and wiggle and transmute until it returns to its whole state. And then, so for example, side effects, watching gashes disappear before your very eyes, any sort of tumor, abrased bones fuse, gangrenous flesh turn back to pink in color. That was my first event over 30 years ago. That made me a believer.
Yeah.
And then, I've seen it all. So, what most people come to me for is you're that guy. I'm like the cleaner from like Pulp Fiction. I'm Harvey Keitel. I'll get a phone call from someone going, I was told that I could call you. My grandma's in a coma. She's going to die. The doctor said you have 24 hours to live. And I'm like, hang on a sec. No. And they're like, what do you mean no? You have such certainty with that. No, she's going to be fine. And she says to say hello, and she loves you, and she'll be back momentarily. And they're like, holy shit. And then the next day, vitals are regulated. She wakes up, she's out of a coma, and we're all good to go. But this is a communication. Only once have I had an event like that where there was trickery to the person that came to me because they really wanted her to die. And it was like the burden of care and all the rest of it. I'm like, okay, let's have this conversation. And they're like, I really want mommy to live and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I know you're full of shit. Okay, let me talk to your mother. And the mother was like, if her and her sister show me that they love me and they want me to stay here, I'm going to stay here. And I returned that information to her. And she said, yes, I want to. And I could see very well she was not committed. She didn't want the commitment of having to care for her elderly mother. And so, we had a negotiation. The mother came back. She was there for 4 or 5 days, but the daughter was so perplexed that she couldn't believe that it took place. Because you're this rando guy that I got the number from my friend who's a waiter at a local restaurant. And I can't believe that that's possible, but I did everything I could. So going to you was the last call on what I could commit as virtue signaling. And when I came to you and it actually happened where you communicated with my mother and she came out of the coma and then she realized her heart was more broken. When she returned, there was no meshing, there was no meeting, there was no solidifying of that union. It was more broken than it was when she was about to leave this last time. So what happened was she regulated everything. The doctors were perplexed. After about the 5th day of no commitment from her children to wanting her to be here, having conversation, she fell right back into the coma. And we witnessed her transition out. And boom, we're on to the next journey, the next experience. But I find that this is something that goes a long way when you're able to share things that would not be possible. And that's how these type of magical, supernatural, paranormal experiences help people solidify that resonance. And that's where it's a cultivational practice. That's where you have to be able to have a method to the madness. And then, I get a lot of self-proclaimed gurus that go, well, that means you have to identify. I don't do that. I transmit the Brahman. I'm like, okay, cool. But guess what? The Brahman is identity, brah. Oh, oopsie. Hang on. I'll be right back. And then that's where the conversation ends. I'll be right back. Hang on. I'll be right back. Give me a second. 2 hours. No one returned the comment. No. Computer says no. I don't know whether you ever watched Little Britain, but yeah, that's a classic liner. The computer says no.
Oh.
You have to watch that. So this type of teaching, I love the Sasquatch, Yeti, Bigfoot, Abominable Snowman. I guess that would be the same category, right? Abominable Snowman.
Yeah.
That's a very potent energy. It's a very young, but it has this incredible equal potency of a grounding yin energy. Really expansive.
Yeah, 25th dimensional.
There you go. I don't know. I'm just high as AF. I'm just high as a kite right now. It's one of most of my students are like, Jiffy, you're aura dipping again. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's there. It's a platter of sampling. I'm gonna sample what's on the platter. This is a cheese platter. Oh, let me just have it's blue cheese, a little Swiss, good old-fashioned cheddar. And so this type of teaching has been a cultivational practice since you were a young child. So
no, actually not until about, I used to be a sommelier. That was my profession, was wine. And I've had these gifts since I was a little girl. But like I said, went through a lot of my life thinking that I was like delusional or crazy because I would know things about people and feel trees and the rocks. And I always loved being out camping and in the woods. Grew up in the woods and live in the woods now. I love that connection, with the Sasquatch consciousness. But really, it wasn't until I was in my early 50s that I went in to see a nurse practitioner to try some, because the knowings of people, being able to read them, know things, see things in their bodies, see illness, it was driving me crazy. And this nurse practitioner, he, instead of, because I said I want to try this and this and this, and I think about 4 electric shock treatments, we'll zap it out and everything will be fine. And he was like, Jen, you're the sanest crazy person I've ever met. Have you ever thought you were psychic? And I thought, here we go again, that this is a delusion or something. And I said, and from that moment on, it changed everything. All those appointments turned into like psychic coaching, understanding who I am, what I could do, what I could see, and how I can help be a part of moving humanity forward. How psychic work readings, consultations, teaching about whatever my downloads are can be part of the moving of humanity forward, because we are at a serious kind of moment of division and reflection, the light to the dark. People are having to make choices and understanding themselves. COVID caused us to stop and change how we see our reality, feel our reality. Who do we want to be? What do we want to be? How do we want to live? And so really, Son, it's only been in the last 6 years that I have changed how I work, that I am helping folks, that I am doing consultations, left the wine world behind.
You're now the spiritual sommelier.
Yes. I still give wine tips and tricks, but but yeah, so this is what I do now. I teach classes on soul contracts, on meditation, on spirit guides. I have a class coming up called Unlocking the Woo, finding the woo within. How do you, it's for folks that are, most of us are psychic. Most of us do have gifts. How do you uncover those gifts? Or
what is the woo? What does the woo refer to?
The woo? The woo.
Are you talking like the woo woo or just the woo?
The woo woo. I think woo woo, not the woo you're talking about.
Yeah. One of my dear friends, she's like a sister to me. I don't know whether you heard of Julie Ryan. She's a medical intuitive. She's like the spiritual version of Martha Stewart. She looks like Martha Stewart, but she's super tuned in. Like her and I look so like polar opposites, but we're like family. Anyway, she's like, when she first met me, it's like, I always talked about the woo-woo, and now you've helped me understand it by teaching me about the woo-gee. It's all woo-woo. And I'm like, that's right. It's all woo-woo.
Yeah. It's all woo-woo.
It's all woo-woo.
It's the same bucket. It's just a different way it's different nomenclature, different way to describe it, explain it.
As she puts it, she calls it the psychic buffet. She offers the psychic buffet of knowingness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, that's part of your self-realized, right? Sensory, I just refer to it as sensory perception. And once you develop it, there's no limitation. It's like any possible.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Woo woo. It is.
Yes, sir.
Oh my goodness. Well, this has been a fascinating conversation about deeper. What I'm really connected to is the Sasquatch energy. And, that really meets the same vibration and frequency of my wife. And quite frankly, when that first came in during that reading, I was like, what is this bullshit? What did I watch lately that came up? But it was so overwhelming, that energy. It set me straight. It slapped me right across the face going, how dare you dismiss me? I mean, it's like so, it was just so, and that's the potency of reading information, right? Because it's going to come to you at this present moment, and it's not going to be a conjured intellect thought processes. It will be immediate, and it will be so not in line with what you assumed as your personality. Right. And that's what I love about information.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And once you open yourself up to the Sasquatch consciousness, it's like almost you make a decision in your mind to open up to it, then it's amazing how it floods in, and you start to see and start to think and realize and get thoughts and prompts of Sasquatch and the consciousness working. And you can heal your body. You can work on healing your body with the Sasquatch consciousness. Just call on Camus. Ask him to help heal your heart, heal your pancreas, heal your colon, heal your soul. You know, if heal my relationship, my fractured relationship with my child, fractured relationship with my mom, or the difficulties in my marriage. It's
Yeah.
pretty amazing.
Whatever you want. Your
Yes,
wish is my command.
exactly. It's just like the genie in my right over here in my land.
Yeah. Yeah. There you go. Look at that. Yeah. I mean, that's how it works with Latu. I love doing, little intimate relationship transactions of eminent divinity, which he presents. I mean, I present it. It's a resonance that precedes me, but when I am conscious and he enters me as a catalyst and conduit, it's an experience, and people love it. I have them on my channel. You just go and experience. They're like, oh my goodness, I could feel all of his energy, and it's all coming through him. That's what he wants it for. That's why he's having a conversation with you. Just a heads up. That's the whole point. It's an intimate little moment with him and you, the seeker, the witnesser, the observer, and it will come in a visceral form, and that's a great indicator. But Camus, my man, my brother,
Yeah.
I'm digging the energy. It's funny when I come across people's auras, and whatever it is that they're meeting. I always have good laugh every now and then when I come across JC or the Big G. Those energies are unique in their own way, like everything. And there are an infinite amount of spirits and energies. People need to understand this.
Yeah.
And it's always fun to sample the now experience. So I'm going to put your social sphere and interweb under this podcast. I want my students, disciples, 126s, and subscribers to. And you're like, hang on a second, have I caught up in some type of like indoctrinated cult? What is a 126? What are you talking about? It sounds like some gang sign. Well, it's just a community of people. I created a digital app that takes you from zero to a hero. And so it masters the very entry level, basement level thing is your emotions don't control you, you control your emotions. And so what happens is someone who's unassuming, who goes in and goes, look, I just need a break from this mundane crap. I'm sick of anxiety, fear, stress, whatever. I need a handle. This is a microdosing of regulating what we call your dantians. And it's normally over a 9-week period. There's over 2 years worth of training, but I've never had anyone go over the 9-week period that doesn't go, holy crap, I can literally reach in, grab my emotion and move it off the computer screen and be back into the state of knowing. And that's really the master state. So that's what the 126 is. And it's about a thought, feeling, and emotion. Just when you said that, I was like, I think we're picking up what we're putting down. And so when someone hits play on this thing, it's like 8 pina coladas, full body massage, and 10 days in the Bahamas. And they go, what the?
Beautiful.
What happened? How did that happen? How is that possible? I don't believe in shit. I just want to come here for relief. And I heard this was the place to come. This is you instantly accessing the now moment and that fluidity that we talk about, that pulse. And you just reclaim that by emulating and experiencing what you return to through this app. So that's not a cult or some gang sign or anything, just so you know. 126, you're like, what the hell are you, disciple students? What is going on here? Yeah, it all sort of adds up. And there is a differentiator. A disciple to a student is far different from me because I'm handing down really ancient ritual for someone that wants to be committed to a more refined path of self-realization. A student wants to acquire the secret sauce and go from a zero to a hero and create healing, bring people to wholeness. And the 126 is for all those people that are just, judge, police officer, janitor, light worker, psychiatrist, whatever. They want a relief. They want to know that they have it within them. Hit play and get high as AF, my friend. That's how it works. So I want to ask you one last question. Spiritual consciousness, what's your definition?
Spiritual consciousness. What is my definition? Choosing now.
Oh, yeah, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
Choose now.
Wow. Over 400 podcasts, I've never had the same answer, as I should not, because we're both a facet of the diamond of perfection. And I dig that. I'm picking up what you're putting down, my dear friend.
Are you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So
Yeah.
I want everyone to go out and sample all your stuff. So you do one-on-one sessions, you do training, you're writing a book. Do you want to share with the audience a little bit more about what you're offering?
I offer consultation, soul path integration. I offer Starseed readings, medical intuitive consultations, mentorship, energy healings, and then all kinds of classes. Talked about a little bit of those. I have a rock shop. I'm really into the frequency of stone. So I teach classes on crystals, and I, have the online rock shop, but all kinds of stuff at jenbushman.com. Bushman is my last name. So
everyone will come and find you.
Yes. And then I'm writing books. I've got 4 books in the works, but the first one will be the Soul Contracts book with a workbook and the accompanying meditations, and then a crystal book, and then my starseed channelings, and then the dimensions. I offer a dimensions class where we go through the dimensions, the spiritual message of the dimensions, where they lie, where in the stars. It's a whole new world that I've been channeling. I've been channeling that for about 5 years now, and so that'll be the next book after Soul Contract.
Always amazing.
Yeah, so a lot going on over there at jenbushman.com. So
everyone go out and check jenbushman.com. And I just want to thank you. I'm very grateful for you. Thank you for coming on.
Oh my gosh, I am so grateful to you, Don. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. Thank you.
It's mutual. You had me at hello.
Right.
Okay, I want to thank you. I want to thank the universe for bringing you into my life. I want to thank the audience for sharing their time with us today. I am your humble servant and Sifu, Taoist Master Sanqing, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.
Bye.